Blackwater. Founded in 1997 by Erik, a former Navy SEAL, Blackwater emerged as a major player in the private security industry. The company's rise was meteoric, fueled by the post-9/11 surge in U.S. military spending. Blackwater's training facility in Moyock, North Carolina became a magnet for former soldiers seeking high-paying jobs. These were not your typical security guards. Blackwater recruited heavily from elite special operations forces, promising adrenaline-pumping missions and high salaries. The company's aggressive marketing and Prince's political connections paid off. Blackwater secured lucrative contracts from the U.S. government, providing security for diplomats and training foreign militaries. Blackwater's presence was soon felt in global hotspots from the Balkans to the Middle East. The line between soldier and mercenary became increasingly blurred. It wasn't long before Blackwater found itself embroiled in controversy. Blackwater's rise to prominence was accompanied by a growing chorus of criticism. Human rights groups and legal experts raised concerns about the company's lack of transparency and its culture of impunity. Reports of Blackwater operatives involved in shootings and other abuses began to surface. In 2004, 4 Blackwater contractors were brutally killed in Fallujah, Iraq. The incident exposed the dangers faced by private contractors in war zones. However, it also raised troubling questions about Blackwater's rules of engagement. The US government, heavily reliant on Blackwater, seemed reluctant to rein in the company. Blackwater operated in a legal gray area, subject to neither the Uniform Code of Military Justice nor the laws of the countries in which it operated. This lack of accountability created a climate of impunity. Incidents involving Blackwater continued to mount, each one adding fuel to the fire of controversy. The stage was set for the company's most notorious act, the Nisour Square massacre. The Iraq War proved to be a bonanza for Blackwater. The US government turned increasingly to private contractors to fill the gaps in its military operations. Blackwater, with its army of heavily armed mercenaries, was more than happy to oblige. Blackwater's role in Iraq went far beyond providing security for diplomats. The company's operatives were tasked with guarding high-value targets and escorting convoys. Blackwater became a virtual extension of the US military, but without the same rules of engagement or accountability. The presence of Blackwater had a profound impact on the battlefield. The lines between combatant and civilian became blurred, creating a chaotic environment. Blackwater's aggressive tactics fueled resentment among the local population. The company's convoys became symbols of foreign occupation and arrogance. The events of September 16, 2007 in Baghdad's Nisour Square would forever tarnish Blackwater's name. A Blackwater convoy responding to a perceived threat opened fire on a crowded traffic circle, killing 17 Iraqi civilians. The Nisour Square massacre sent shockwaves around the world. Eyewitness accounts painted a horrific picture of indiscriminate killing. The Iraqi government called for Blackwater to be expelled from the country. The US government eventually launched an investigation into the shooting. The investigation revealed a pattern of recklessness within Blackwater. In the aftermath of Nisour Square, Blackwater's days in Iraq were numbered. The company's contract was not renewed, and its operatives were forced to leave the country. Nisour Square became a symbol of the excesses of privatized war. The Nisour Square massacre marked a turning point for Blackwater. Facing intense scrutiny, the company embarked on a desperate attempt to salvage its reputation. It started with a name change from Blackwater to Sea Services. The rebranding effort did little to quell the controversy. Blackwater, or Sea Services, was still the same company with the same leadership. In 2010, Sea Services underwent another metamorphosis, emerging as Academi. The company brought in new management and promised greater transparency. But the stain of Nisour Square proved difficult to erase. The rebranding efforts did little to address the underlying issues that plagued Blackwater. The lack of regulation and the culture of impunity remained. Blackwater's legacy is perhaps most deeply felt in the lives of Iraqi civilians. From reckless shootings to indiscriminate use of force, Blackwater's presence in Iraq left a trail of death and trauma. For many Iraqis, Blackwater became a symbol of the occupation's brutality. The company's heavily armed convoys instilled fear and resentment. Blackwater operatives were accused of treating Iraqi civilians with contempt. The Nisour Square massacre stands as a chilling reminder of the human cost of Blackwater's actions. The victims were simply going about their daily lives when they were gunned down. The psychological scars of Blackwater's presence in Iraq run deep. Blackwater's rise had a profound impact on the US military. The company's increasing role in Iraq blurred the lines between soldiers and mercenaries. The use of private military companies like Blackwater created a two-tiered system of justice. Soldiers were subject to the uniform code of military justice, while contractors operated in a legal gray area. This disparity bred resentment among some soldiers. It also raised concerns about the erosion of civilian control over the military. The reliance on private contractors had a corrosive effect on the military's own capabilities. As more functions were outsourced, the military became increasingly dependent on private companies. This eroded its own capacity to conduct certain operations. Blackwater's actions in Iraq had far-reaching diplomatic consequences for the United States. The company's reputation for recklessness strained relations with the Iraqi government. The Nisour Square massacre sparked international outrage. The Iraqi government demanded that Blackwater be held accountable. The Blackwater scandal highlighted the dangers of outsourcing sensitive military operations. It also raised questions about the US government's ability to control these companies. The diplomatic fallout from Blackwater's actions served as a cautionary tale. It underscored the need for clear legal frameworks and robust oversight mechanisms. The Blackwater scandal emphasized the importance of accountability in privatized security. Blackwater's story is emblematic of a larger trend, the increasing privatization of war. This trend raises profound ethical, legal, and strategic concerns. The use of private military companies introduces a dangerous element of profit motive into warfare. When companies stand to gain financially from armed conflict, it creates a perverse incentive to prolong wars. The lack of transparency and accountability makes it difficult to hold them responsible for abuses. This lack of oversight creates a climate of impunity. The proliferation of private military companies raises concerns about the erosion of state sovereignty. When private armies operate outside the bounds of law, it undermines democratic values and global security. Blackwater's legacy is one of controversy and the human cost of privatized war. The company's actions in Iraq serve as a stark reminder of the dangers of outsourcing military functions. Blackwater's story is a cautionary tale about the need for greater regulation of the private military industry. It highlights the importance of clear legal frameworks and robust accountability mechanisms. The Blackwater scandal underscores the need for a broader debate about the role of private military companies. As technology advances, it is essential to consider the implications of privatizing war. The legacy of Blackwater is a reminder that war should never be a for-profit enterprise. The use of force must always be a last resort, guided by the principles of humanity and the rule of law. The future of private military companies remains uncertain. Despite the controversies, the demand for private security services is unlikely to disappear. The question is, can the industry be reformed to ensure accountability? Several steps can be taken to address the concerns raised by the Blackwater scandal. These include strengthening legal frameworks, enhancing oversight mechanisms, and promoting transparency. Fostering a culture of responsibility is also crucial. The Blackwater saga serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked power. It is a call to action for governments and the private sector to work together. Ensuring that the privatization of war does not come at the expense of human life is paramount.